In this third video for the final exam review, we're going to talk about using depreciation. There are three types of depreciation that we've talked about in this class. The first one is the straight line depreciation. Second one is declining balance depreciation. And the third one is the double declining balance depreciation. The actual functions themselves, or column B, are different depending on the type of depreciation you're doing. But the accumulated depreciation and the book value are the same. And we'll do that once, and then you'll notice that it's been completed on the rest of the examples. So let's just zoom in just a little bit. So we're going to start with the first one, which is the straight line depreciation. So that is equal. And the function is SLN. And basically, this is going to be the same depreciation for each year. So there are three required arguments. The first is the initial cost, which is A6. Make sure you make this absolute because our intention is to copy it down. The salvage will be B6, again, absolute. And then the useful life is how many years are we depreciating this for? And right here we're doing 5. So we'll click on C6 and again make it absolute. And if we hit enter, the depreciation, if we just copy this down, will be $23,600. So now we want to have our accumulated depreciation. And so the first one, we're in C10. This is going to simply equal B10. And then the book value is going to be A6, which is basically what we started with, absolute, minus C10. And then we do need to make one change with C11, and that'll equal what we had last year plus the amount we have this year. We can enter, and then we will copy this down, and then we'll copy down the book value. And you can see that it actually ended with the salvage value. So these formulas, let's review them real quick. C10 is just simply B10. It's just what the current one is. And the next one, we're taking C10, which was last year's, and we're adding this year. And then you'll notice we didn't do any absolutes here because we just want to copy these down. And then the book value is currently what is the current accumulated depreciation, and we subtract that from the initial cost. That's really the only absolute that we use in these two columns. Okay, so let's do the declining balance depreciation, and that'll be equal DB, and the cost, just scooch up here, is A6 absolute. The salvage will be B6 absolute, and the life will be C6 absolute. And now we have to have the period, and that is what year are we looking at, because every year is going to be different, and this will be A19. So A19, and we don't need to make that absolute. The month is optional, and for the first year, and the last year really, is how many months of depreciation are we going to do. So here we'll just assume that it was purchased in January, and we'll hit enter. And that'll give us $39,900 for the first year. And if we just copy that down, you can see that as the time goes on with this piece of equipment, we are able to declare more depreciation early on in the life and then less as we go through. Now the last one, and you'll notice that we've already created, this was already created for us as the accumulated. It's the same as we did for the straight line. Now the last one is double declining, which is equal DDB. And we do want to be careful with our absolutes. So I'm just going to type in A6 for the cost, absolute. The The salvage is B6, absolute, and the life is C6, absolute. So the same as we've used before. And actually, this is the exact same formula function, the arguments as we did with the declining balance. And the period will be A28. And that one we don't have to worry about making absolute because we want it to change as we copy this down. We'll hit enter. So if we just copy this down, you will see that we get more depreciation in the first 3 years, and then it gets down to about $400. And by the time we get to the 5th year, we have nothing to depreciate. So that is working with the 3 different types of depreciation.